Hi, 6th graders. We're back today to look at another section of the text. This one is going to discuss map scale. So you're going to be working with a partner on this one. I'd like you to please take a moment to label your Cornell notes. Remember, you'll need the title, which is map scale, and then you're also going to need to add the date and the pages that it covers, pages 20 through 21. So please take a moment with your partner to label your Cornell notes. Now that you've finished labeling your Cornell notes, it's time for us to jump into the text. You'll see that right now I have it zoomed all the way out, so I'm looking at page 20, the whole thing, and you can either be following along on here or you can be using a textbook if you'd like to, but I'm going to zoom in so that we can look at the text a little bit more carefully. Here's our main idea. The main idea is that maps use different scales for different purposes. It's good to take a note on the main idea. So with your partner, please pause and decide what you're going to write down for main idea. Now that we're back, let's start with the text. On a walk through a city, such as Charlotte, North Carolina, you might use a highly detailed map that shows only the downtown area. To drive up the Atlantic coast, however, you would use a map that covers a large area, including several states. These maps have different scales. This is a good opportunity for you to summarize this paragraph in your notes. So please take a moment with your partner to decide what you're going to write in your Cornell notes to summarize this paragraph. Now that you've summarized the first paragraph, let's move on to the second section. The second section is titled Interpreting a Scale. Let's start reading right here. A map's scale shows how much distance on Earth is shown on the map. Remember from the last time we did this, any time that a word is highlighted, that's a good clue to us that we should take a note on it. So here we have a highlighted word. Please take a moment with your partner to write down the definition of scale in your Cornell notes. Now that we're back, let's continue reading. A large-scale map covers a small area but shows many details. A small-scale map covers a large area but includes few details. A scale is usually shown in both inches and centimeters. 1 inch or centimeter on the map represents a much larger distance on Earth, such as a number of miles or kilometers. To use a map scale, mark off the length of the scale several times on the edge of a sheet of paper. Then hold the paper between 2 points to see how many times the scale falls between them. Add up the distance. So let's try this last part with your partner right now. Now that you have tried this technique of using a map scale, let's pause and take some Cornell notes of this section of the text. Before we do that, I want to show you a couple of the things that they were talking about before you take your notes. Here it tells us that a large scale map covers a small area but shows many details. A small scale map covers a large area but includes few details. That can seem a little bit confusing and backwards. Let's look at it with this example. I'm just zooming out. So here's a map of Charlotte, North Carolina, which is a city in North Carolina. Actually, you've probably heard about this city right now because there's a lot of civil unrest happening there because of some police shooting and some rioting. But it just happens that this map is in this textbook. It's not because of what's happening right there. But if we look at that map a little bit more closely, we see that this is an example of a large scale map. This detailed map shows only the city of Charlotte. On this map's scale, a ½ inch on the map represents a quarter mile on Earth. So this is an example of a large scale map. There's lots and lots of detail, but it's showing a pretty small area. When we turn over to page 21 in a moment, we're going to see an example of a small scale map. So I'll do that right now. We've switched over. The text actually gives us an example of a medium scale map here and a small scale map here. Let's look at the small scale map that is showing us the eastern United States, so the eastern part of the country. You see that this is a small scale map. This map shows the Atlantic coast states all the way from Florida to Maine. It covers a large area and shows even fewer details than a medium scale map. So this is an example of a small scale map. It shows a large area, but there are not a lot of details. Let's go back to the previous page, and with your partner, what I'd like you to do is summarize this section of the text right here where it says interpreting a scale with your partner. Now that you've had an opportunity to summarize this section entitled Interpreting a Scale, let's continue on with the reading. to zoom in a little bit more for us. Here we are at the bottom, talking about the purposes of a scale. The scale of a map should be appropriate for its purpose. For example, a tourist map of Washington, D.C. should be large scale, showing every street name, monument, and museum. I'm going to switch to our next page. There we are. I'm just going to finish up reading right here, where it says, maps of any scale show geographic patterns. The map of Washington, D.C., for instance, would show that many government buildings are in one area. Now that we've finished up reading the text, please work with your partner to write a summary of your Cornell notes for this section of the text.